Now, the only way to protect yourself is to constantly be in God. This is perilous times, dangerous times. You will lose members of your family, loved ones. That's why God says it's perilous times. And it's not ahead anymore, it's here. A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being such a faithful patron of Trinity International. Welcome to all of you that are new. Welcome to the family. I just want to remind you, this will be our last week for collection of monies towards hampers for Christmas. Please, if the Lord leads you in your heart, do something for those who struggle during this festive season. I pray over all that you give during the course of this year, and I pray God's blessing upon your family and yourself. Beloved, I left you last week talking about opening a portal to the spirit realms. We're going to delve a little deeper with a little more detail what concerns this matter. In the meantime, I need to show you on a regular basis how close we are to the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. I also need to show you at the speed at which the elites, those who are directly working under the auspices of Satan, how the speed at which they are unfolding the satanic agenda into our world. And when you look at the speed and the expedience of their plan, it helps us to identify the closeness of the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. Now there's something I meant to share with you a little later, but I'm going to read it early. It's in the book of Psalms, chapter 2. Why do the nations rage and the people plot a vain thing? For a moment, as we look at that sentence, God is saying through his prophet that whatever the people are plotting, this is in the last days, this is reference to. It's a vain thing. It means that it's useless. It means that it will go nowhere. It means that it's for nothing. So all the effort, money, energy that they are putting in to bringing this evil into the world, God is saying to us in advance, during the time of King David, he's telling us that their plotting will be in vain. Verse 2, the kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together. Now we have seen all these rulers from different parts of the world that come together on a regular basis. Now, we know that this is a prophecy of the end times because the documents tell us this. But just as a matter of interest, the leaders of the ancient world during the time of David never used to come together in any form to have meetings to decide the fate of the world. These things are only happening now. Now, meeting with all the leaders from the world, the rulers of the world, during the time of David was an unthinkable thing. They couldn't get that together because that would mean travel from very far parts of the world, which was near impossible during the time of David, to come together to have meetings. So this that David is talking about is quite clearly during our day. And so we read it once again with that in mind. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed. That means his children. If you regard yourself as his children, then this refers to you. They plot against you, saying, let us break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us. Now I want to break that down for you to understand ancient translations of the original Hebrew. That means, these evil people are saying, let us break the bonds in pieces. Their bonds. What is their bonds? Your tie to God. In other words, your conscience. That which keeps you moral, in line with the order of God. They want to sever those ties. They want to cut it. They want to break your bond, my bond with our dad. Now, we've read about this and heard on video the testimony of that Dutch banker who was eventually murdered because he came out to talk about the Illuminati and how they operate and the sacrifice of children and all these sorts of things. And one of the things he told us was that they were teaching him and bringing him to a place where his conscience is seared. Now, when a person's conscience is seared, it means that their contact with God is cut. Because your conscience is your soul. And even though many of us do wrong things at many different times, that silent voice inside of us constantly tell us that this is wrong. Now, if our consciences are dead, like the golems, those with no souls, then we will continue to be immoral without having any guilty conscience. And so, I did also tell you and showed you a video long time ago how Bill Gates introduced to the CIA a injection, a poke of sorts, that would dull the conscience part of the brain. That part of the brain which houses our conscience. I played you this video as well. And when that conscience is seared, then they won't be radicalized. This was in reference to the radical Islamist jihadists. Then he was offering that solution to the CIA. And in order to make these rebels, these jihadists, take this poke, they needed to release a disease so that these people can be poked. This was his plotting idea from the year 2000 or so. Now, in the same manner, they plotting in various ways, and I've demonstrated this to you through all the videos so far, various places, how they want to remove people's character. They want to remove God's presence from the temple. And once God's presence is removed from the temple, it can no longer be called a temple. It is defiled. And so we're moving towards this, but not just that. David told us this thousands of years ago. The opening of the portal to the seventh heaven and all the heavens of God is vital for God to reveal these things to David. And this is the way God reveals these things to you and I, depending on the spin and frequency of our Merkaba, which is dictated to by the emotions that we carry. So if we are, I'm going to use this term loosely, godly. If we carry godly emotions, of joy, peace, love, gentleness, kindness. These create frequencies. And the most potent of frequencies is thanksgiving and praise. That opens the portal and allows you to get into the gates of heaven. So I'm just reminding you that David had this kind of access. If you remember, when he brought the Ark of the Covenant back, when it was taken, he was rejoicing and praising God, so much so that he became naked in the streets and was not even embarrassed. That kind of praise that lived in his heart created a portal for him so God can reveal to him these things that we're reading. So let's read that again. Let us break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us. This is the consciences. Let us break the cords of connection to morality, to conscience, to God. And so this is their plan. And then it says, he who sits in the heavens shall laugh. This is talking about our Father. The Lord shall hold them in derision. Then he shall speak to them in his wrath and distress them in his deep displeasure. Yet I have set my king on my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree. The Lord has said to me, you are my son. Today I have begotten you. Can you see who's speaking? Jesus is speaking. The begotten son. And this was before Jesus even came on the earth. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance. This is God the Father talking to God the Son, promising him the nations for his inheritance, and the ends of the earth for your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron. You shall dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. Now therefore be wise, O kings. Now that's God talking to all of us. Be instructed, you judges of the earth. Now, can you see in advance, before Revelations even tell us anything, we are going to be joint heirs with Christ, which means that we're going to judge the earth when time comes for the believers to be judges. And so David addresses this, and God is telling him, be wise, O kings, be instructed, you judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry and you perish in the way. When his wrath is kindled but a little, blessed are all those who put their trust in him. Now, beloved, whatever I read about what they're plotting, God is telling us that it is in vain, and he sits there and he laughs at them, no matter what they're plotting. As long as you kiss the Son, Jesus Christ, and you hold on to the crown, and you don't slip, you will be fine. God promises us that. So I want to take you to the plotting that's going on, so that you can be aware. Last week, I showed you a video clip of a man called Aman Jabi. He's been working for close to 30 years in the electronics industry. He designs and designed cameras that fit on all the major cell phones and surveillance cameras around the world. And he showed us the video about where the elites want to place security footage cameras all over the world. And the excuse or the carrot they will dangle for us to accept it is that it provides safety and security. Now, as I brought that to you, just this week, SABC introduced a new surveillance technology that will be mounted in taxis, and it's being rolled out in Durban at the moment. Watch this.
In the Durban city centre were installed with the devices. Commuters and drivers have welcomed the move and called for the program to be rolled out extensively.
There won't be any overloads on the taxis.
She says there are many things that happen to us as passengers. Even when you have lost an item, you can now be able to find it. He says this taxi is fitted with 2 cameras. One monitors everything inside, whilst another one monitors everything that is happening around the taxi. Taxi owners can monitor the movement of their vehicles from their cell phones. Using this new device, taxi rank managers can keep track of any activity in a taxi and can even remotely switch off the engine of a taxi from their offices.
There's a few things I'd like you to pick up from this video. The first thing is that an artificial intelligence that is based far away, all this information will be gathered and sent to that artificial intelligence. Right now in the video you see a man that's sitting and controlling that vehicle, and he can switch it off at any time that he wants. When all this data is being fed to the AI can switch off your car engine anywhere, anytime. And let's look at the reason they gave. And the people who are talking in this video are buying it. They're saying, yeah, it's very good for our safety. We can leave things and it won't get stolen, and we can catch the thieves, and that sort of conversation. Because it's being sold, surveillance that will feed information is sold to the world as safety and security, and the people are already buying it. Very early on in 2020, I think it was, I showed you a document that was published by, and in that document it says that this type of drug that they're putting in carries with it the ability to carry frequencies or broadcast. And just like a computer system, it can be hacked and controlled. And so just like how they can switch the taxi engine off, they can, if they've done it effectively and the people got the right dosages, then they can switch the people off also. But I don't think we're there as yet. The details remain to be seen. The elites control mechanism has already been established in the United Kingdom. You can call it a pilot project. Take a look.
Remember when the media said that climate lockdowns were just a baseless conspiracy theory, and then India went ahead and imposed them anyway? Well, now de facto climate lockdowns for a major UK city have just been announced. Yep. They're actually doing it. The Daily Sceptic reports Oxford County Council is going to trial a scheme whereby the residents of the city are divided into 7 zones with movement by car between the zones restricted to 100 trips per year. The plan is to use automatic license plate recognition cameras to enforce the de facto climate lockdowns. Electronic gates on key roads in and out of the city will confine people to their own area if they go over their travel rationing limit. Residents will only be allowed to leave their area 100 times a year. That's the equivalent of just 2 days a week. And I'm sure that limit will be reduced even further after this scheme is implemented. They'll need special permission from the council, which will decide whether the journeys are necessary. Everyone will have to register their car with the local authorities so it can be tracked and traced by smart cameras. Imagine if your job requires that you have to drive from your home to a nearby town or city every day of the week, or even just 3 times a week. Government says no. That's a de facto climate lockdown. And don't think you can beat the system if you're a two-car household. Those 2 cars will be counted as one, meaning you'll have to divide up the journeys between yourselves. 2 cars, 50 journeys each, 3 cars, 33 journeys each, and so on. The Lefty Council actually announced this 15-minute neighbourhoods policy last year when they were elected, but only now are we discovering the true scale of this draconian population control measure. Communist-style internal borders, internal passports, all in the name of saving the planet. Of course. They want it all in place by 2024, but the trials are already set to start soon. The Oxford Mail reports that local authorities have insisted the controversial plan would go ahead whether people liked it or not. You'll be allowed to drive far less and you'll be happy.
It's amazing. It's out there. It's being rolled out. God says it's in vain. Now I'm going to take you to understand something. When I look around and I see general Christians just going about their business, going to church, coming back, singing praises, being told that, hey, this coming year is going to be, God is going to bless. When I look at all that, and I think, these are the people God is talking about, that when He comes, they're going to be taken by total surprise. But let me show you what's going on. Did you know that Bill Gates, there's a newspaper article that tells us Bill Gates' patent gives him exclusive rights to computerize the human body. This is fact now. The article continues, a patent granted to Bill Gates awarded the self-appointed World Health Czar the exclusive rights to computerize human bodies and use them as local wireless networks. The human body is a vibrating, throbbing, pulsating gateway of tubes and tunnels filled with electrolytes and all capable of transmitting information, the lifeblood of the internet and the 21st century. Now it has emerged that Gates Microsoft was granted exclusive rights to this ability of the body to act as a computer network. Microsoft was awarded US patent, there's the number there, 675472, which is titled Method and Apparatus for Transmitting Power and Data Using the Human Body. Just in case there's any doubt, I accessed the US patent website. And as you can see the patent website, this patent was granted to Microsoft Technology Licensing in the year 2000. You'll see the date 27th of April 2000. And the application was filed by Microsoft. And in the patent is an abstract that reads, Method and Apparatus for Transmitting Power and Data Using the Human Body. Methods and apparatus for distributing power and data to devices coupled to the human body are described. The human body is used as a conductive medium. Example, a bus. That's not a driving bus now. This is a bus, something that holds information, over which power and or data is distributed. Power is distributed by coupling a power source to the human body via first set of electrodes. In this patent, there are diagrams. And in the diagram, you look at two parts that, there's so many, but I'll just isolate two. In figure 3, you'll see a section called control logic. And the next one is number 40, memory. So these people have patented a technology to control human beings in the year 2000. Technology has reached that place where they can now carry out the potency of the patent. And what is their plan? To cut the cords from human, in other words, to take away their conscience. This man is able to do that because he's got a license to hack human bodies, treat them as computers, emitting frequencies. And we've already shared so much about this. What is even more dangerous? Look at their plotting. There's an article that tells us, it's from the Max Planck Institute, very reputable. And it says, animal poking things with self-spreading diseases. And the article continues. This is a study. The pokes for animals based on diseases that spread on their own are being developed in Europe and the US. This was an article this year. Immunobiology, infection biology. Since the first lab-modified disease capable of replication was generated in 1974, an evidence-based consensus has emerged that many changes introduced into the genomes are likely to prove unstable if released into the environment. On this basis, many virologists would question the release of GM diseases that retain the capacity to spread between individual vertebrate hosts. What does this study tell us in layman's terms? From 1974, they had the ability, let's say they wanted to poke a whole number of people. They wanted to immunize a whole host of people. They just have to take a certain percentage of that population and put that needle inside. And let's say it was sheep, and sheep was getting infected by certain bacteria. And they will take this drug and they will poke the sheep. Maybe there's 100 sheep, they only have to poke about 30. And as those sheep move to meet all their friends, whatever is in them is self-spreading, which means that if they have that thing, it will get transferred to the other sheep. So all the sheep don't need to get the poke, just a small handful. Now they've been selling this thing to us for a long time. We just need, that's what we need. I don't know if we can use that term, but we need that. And so they didn't require everybody, just a group of people. Now what's happening after this group of people get it? They're going to sit in the church. They're going to sit in the cinema. They're going to sit everywhere. On the dance floor, they're dancing. In the bars. And in the schools, they're sitting next to each other. When this technology is at play already, you'll see that the child that didn't take that thing, if the other child's parents took it, the child will get it. And the child sitting next to your child will get it. Although they didn't volunteer. That's why you'll see in today a whole lot of problems that we never thought we'll see in the sicknesses that are happening. You might think this is very far-fetched, but the company that makes this, the poison they've been giving everybody, there's documents that have been released recently in troves because the court ordered them to. I want you to read what the article tells us. Confidential documents by that company, a new study confirms that this thing is leaking from people. It's been occurring with shocking and dangerous consequences. Study confirms that the poked have been transmitting antibodies generated by those things that they put inside through aerosols. Findings should come as no surprise because a confidential document by that company has already confirmed exposure to the pokes. This type of pokes was responsible by skin-to-skin contact and breathing same air as someone who has been given the poke. This is how they transfer from one to another. So why do you think suddenly they forced the children to go and mix with people? They wanted them to sit close together too. And they wanted everything open. And this is the reason why they rose up students in China to come against the there, because they need this thing that's inside of the ones that have already been poked. They need it to leak to the world. What's their aim? Is to break the bonds, the consciences, is to change character. And this is what this thing does. This study goes on to say, a study conducted by scientists at the University of Colorado confirms the vast majority of humanity has had absolutely no choice in the matter of whether they wish to get that poke or not, because the poked have already been transmitting antibodies generated by the through aerosols. Now, you see the patent I told you about, it's granted to Bill Gates, to use the body to transmit. So what he's doing is not illegal, he's got a patent for it. Let's look at the last paragraph. The findings should, however, come as no surprise, because a confidential that document has already confirmed exposure to those pokes was perfectly possible by skin-to-skin contact, by breathing the same air as someone who has already been given that dangerous poison. So, when people gather, it's possible, if they have this inside of them, they could have not taken it themselves. They could have been in the same room as someone for a long time, and they come and get it and they sit next to you. Everywhere you're sitting in a room, and that can make the people who didn't even want to take it, mean to take it, get infected. And this is the reason why God's protection is pay. It's in the news internationally. Let's read this. Less mixing due to that could be behind increased strep A infection, says expert, after 6 children die. Just before the 6th article came out, there were 5. All of a sudden, they became 6 children. 6 children have died in the UK after being found to have the bacterial infection, and there have been more cases than normal this year. And they're blaming it on the disease we experienced instead of the poison that they took. The very next day, a new article, Strep A, live. 9th child dies in Belfast school, confirms a tragic loss of pupils. So, over just a day, 3 kids died. And now they came out to say the reason why they're dying is because they don't have penicillin. But we know that's a lie. And they are broadcast because it's increasing. They're not giving the true numbers. But children are getting infected strangely by something that hasn't been infecting children. Then we see famous actress Kirstie Alley dies of 71 of cancer, and the headline tells us that it was only recently discovered. In other words, she was perfectly healthy all along. Suddenly, she gets cancer. Now, you know what's interesting? Kirstie Alley, her mind was with us. She didn't push this thing. In fact, she said, you can't put something in someone if they don't want it. She had all those tweets over the long time. So how did she get cancer? And it's because of what they call shedding. Someone that's poked, who she was close to, shed it. And no protection of God, you get infected. We see Pele, headlines, who was diagnosed with bowel cancer in September 2021, has a respiratory infection which led to hospitalization on Tuesday, where his cancer therapy was reviewed. Just recently now, last year, developed cancer. It's gone so bad, I don't expect to see him here alive much longer. But it's a sudden, let me just tell you this. Those who have had cancer, if this thing comes through to you by shedding or by getting poked yourself, chances of you living long is very limited. And if you are receiving this poison in some way or the other, you will develop the cancer and you will die very shortly with none of God's protection over you. There's another article that tells us that this country singer dies in his sleep right after getting married. He was celebrating getting the poison in April of 2021. And he died, poor fella, without warning in his sleep. There's an article that tells us United Kingdom oncologist reveals cancer cases have increased in those who are poked for that disease. Dr. Angus Dalglish, a professor of oncology at St. George's University of London, says the cancer cases have exploded in patients who have been poked. The already well-established link between that and all these diseases of the heart and strokes is already reason enough to stop the program. Even within my own personal context, this is what the professor is saying, I am seeing this disease after those extra shots. They described being distinctly unwell a few days to weeks after the extra shot. One developing leukemia, two work colleagues non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, an old friend who has felt like he has had that's the symptom, receiving his extra shot, and who getting severe bone pain has been diagnosed as having multiple metastasis from a rare B cell disorder. Now, there's very important academic people telling us the reality of what's happening. One of our faithful members of Trinity recently corresponded with me regarding what's happening at his workplace. And I'll have you to look, with his permission, at the text he sent. Good morning, Pastor. Another death at work. Can you tell me why this is happening? And I asked him about it. He says he did have an attack few weeks back. The other guy had a stroke. He died. So there were two deaths in one workplace in a space of a month. So we can see, when we look at this Bruce Willis story, he's got something called aphasia. And the headline says, Bruce Willis's aphasia is not caused by the poke. There is no evidence to indicate that this disorder is a possible soft patent that they got approval for to hack human bodies. That's basically what it is. And Business Day confirms that it's not the poison that they put in people that's causing all these new related diseases. No, it's not that. It's the original disease that's causing it. Now, the only way to protect yourself is to constantly be in God. This is perilous times, dangerous times. You will lose members of your family, loved ones. That's why God says it's perilous times. And it's not ahead anymore, it's here. And so, this is the reason why I want to draw you closer to God more than you've ever been in your life before. You need His protection because there are things that are going to attack you that you cannot see with your eye. You cannot predict where it's going to be. And so, heed my words. But you know what the problem is? There's not one of us that can say at every given time we are 100%. We are full of faith 100%. Because we all know. We go through financial problems. We go through different types of worries. And our faith gets shaken. Let's be honest. As Christian and godly as we desire in our hearts to be, sometimes circumstances, because we are of a human nature, it rattles us sometimes. But most times we pick ourselves up and we get back on our feet, those who are really in God. But in that period of being hollow, your faith is dropped at that level. Don't you think the devil will target you during those times? He will drop your faith so that your guard, your protection is removed for that period. So let's say you come to a church and you got the shedding going on. You got all sorts of things going on. And you're in this room now. And your guard is down. You're sitting depressed about something. Your faith level is not high to afford you that protection. What will happen? Do you not think that there's going to be, because you are spiritually now weak, because you are going through certain things, and your faith is, because if your faith is strong all the time, there won't be any depression, there won't be any worry. And so that hole that you leave, that door that you leave open, could be where these things can come in and they can harm your body. Just by being, and this is the reason why I choose, more than that reason, but I choose to keep you safe, because we are all human. We go through so much. And even though we are faithful to sit in a building to worship God, which I admire, but our spirit level doesn't always maintain its faith 100%. And during those hours when our faith is low, something can attack us. You know, there's a story in the Bible, Matthew 14, when Jesus waited behind and he sent his disciples on the boat. He returned very late in the dark. Peter looked out, all the disciples looked, and they saw this ghost-like person walking on the water. And someone said, "Hey, it's Jesus." But before that, they were all terrified. And there was a wind blowing, and it was dark. There was no street lights or boat lights or anything. It's dark. They're looking at a figure. And Jesus told Peter, "Don't worry, it's me." Let's read. And Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you on the water." So he said, "Come." And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Can you see your faith can be great at one level, and as soon as you see the wind, it can just drop. And at this moment, this is the danger that we face in this day and age. So those of you that are looking forward to coming together, just be patient with me. I know what I am doing. I'm going to read to you a portion of an ancient scripture that we went through before. It's the apocalypse regarding Abraham. And God tells him, "And in this sacrifice I will lay before thee the ages to come." He's telling Abraham, "I'm going to show you what is to come, and make known to thee what is reserved. And thou shalt see great things which thou hast not seen up to now, because thou hast loved to search me out, and I have named thee my friend." Wow. Then God discloses Abraham the powers of heaven. "And I saw upon the seventh firmament," here you go, the seventh heaven, "upon which I stood, a fire widely extended, and light and dew, and a multiple of angels, and a power of invisible glory over the living creatures which I saw. But no other being did I see there. And I looked from the mountain in which I stood downwards towards the sixth firmament, and saw there a multitude of angels of pure spirit, without bodies, who carried out the commands of the fiery angels, who were upon the eighth firmament. As I was standing suspended over them, and behold, upon this firmament there was no other powers of any other forms, but only angels of pure spirit, like the power which I saw on the seventh firmament. And he commanded that the sixth firmament should be taken away. And I saw there on the fifth firmament the powers of the stars, which carry out the commands laid upon them, and the elements of the earth obeyed them. So let us summarize. Abraham accessed the throne of God because he gave a thanksgiving sacrifice to God. God opened a channel, a portal for him to ascend. And he was on the seventh firmament, that seventh heaven. And he looked down and he saw the sixth one. Then he was able from that firmament to see the fifth one. But he did mention the eighth. But he couldn't tell us what he saw there. Because you can only see the bottom realms, the bottom heavens, when you are on the top. So when you have access to the seventh throne, you have information, prophecies about everything going on, including Hades and the earth and all the other heavens. This is how it's important it is for you to access the portal to go through to the throne of God and to make yourself a friend of God. You know, a friend of God has the privilege of even changing God's mind. And Abraham did that when he asked God to spare Lot and his family. You have the ability to move God's hand. Let's go further. A vision of sin and paradise and the mirror of the world, we read. And he said to me, look now beneath thy feet at the firmaments and understand the creation foreshadowed in this expanse. The creatures existing on it and the age prepared according to it. And I saw beneath the surfaces of the feet, and I saw beneath the sixth heaven, and what was therein, and then the earth and its fruit, and what was moved upon it, and its animate beings, and the power of its men, and the ungodliness of their souls, and their righteous deeds, and the beginnings of their works, and the lower regions, and the perdition therein, the abyss and its torment. And I saw there a great multitude, men and women, and children, half of them on the right of the picture, and half of them on the left of the picture. The fall of man. This is my will with regards to those who exist in the divine world council. And it seemed well pleasing before my sight. And then afterwards, I give commandment to them through my word, through Jesus. And it came to pass, whatever I had determined to be was already planned beforehand in this picture. And it stood before me before it was created, as thou hasn't seen. And I said, O Lord, mighty and eternal, who are these people in this picture on this side and on that? He said to me, these which are on the left side are the multitudes of the people which have formerly been in existence and which are after thee destined. Some for judgment and restoration, and others for vengeance and destruction at the end of the world. But these which are on the right side of the picture, they are the people set apart for me of the peoples from Azazel. These are they whom I have ordained to be born of thee and to be called my people. I don't know if you get this. If you understood everything. Abraham went up and God showed him the past. He showed him the future. He showed him the present. God showed him everything, which means that everything is preordained. Everything has already happened because Abraham saw it happen. He even saw the goat and the sheep on the left and the right. And he saw how God separated them at the end of the age. So when we taking one step in front of the other, in our world, in our life, it's happening as we speak. In God's world, it's finished. So therefore, beloved, God has everything in His hands. There's nothing for you to fret about. Now, why did God become a friend of Abraham? Now, remember, this has nothing to do with how much you give to God, that's your business between you and God. I'm talking here, as I read this to you, about a thankful heart. Let's read this. For Abraham and for his seed, 1/10 of the first fruits to the Lord. And the Lord ordained it as an ordinance forever, that they might give it to the priests who served before him, that they should possess it forever. And to this Lord there is no limit of days, for he had ordained it for the generations forever, that they should give to the Lord the 10th of everything, and of the seed, and of the wine, and of the oil, and of the cattle, and of the sheep. And he gave it unto priests to eat and drink with joy before him. You know what happened? I shared some of this stuff with you last week, I think. Abraham was not compelled, just like Abel, was not compelled to do anything. When God made him rich, this man was rich. He became rich because God took him out of his father's household. He was making idols there, and he made him wealthy. And he had servants, and even his father told him to help his brother's son, Lot. He had a lot of wealth. And because he had that, he felt in his heart, Lord, I want to give you the first fruits. I want to give you 1/10 of everything I have. And so he took a whole lot, and that was a lot of things. Not when I say he was a rich man, he took all that, and what he did is he gave it to God. God says, wait, what am I going to do with this? He said, I'm opening up a temple, a place where my priests will serve. And I want you to give it as whatever you want to give to me, give it to that priest there, so that they can live on your meat that you give them, they can live on the grapes, they can live on anything you give them, and they can do my work. And so God said, let this be an ordinance forever. Let it not change. But my point that I'm driving at is that Abraham established on his own. God didn't tell him this. On his own, he established a precedent, a system of operation for the kingdom. And it came out of his own spirit. He just went one day and he said, Lord, I'm so thankful. And this is the reason, because of his heart. Now, there may be people who can't give God anything, and that's perfect. It's not a problem. God is not looking at your outward appearance and what you physically can do. God is looking about the thankfulness of your heart. How grateful are you to him? And I've been trying to stir this up in you last week. And sometimes, in Abraham's case, he wanted to express this gratefulness and thankfulness by what he had. But that can vary between different individuals. God is more interested in the quality of your heart. And this is what I'm trying to get through to you. Because only that can make you a friend of God. And when you're a friend of God, he gives you access to his house, to his throne. And when those portals are open, God shows you things that he won't show ordinarily to anybody. And this is how I've told you all these things that you sing now 2 years ago, before science can even approve it. Science can confirm it. Where do you think those details came from? Because it drops into my spirit. And when that spirit ignites, God offers that to the people. You know, I shared with you last week that it doesn't have to be when a person is sleeping. But if you have a grateful heart, a thankful heart, a praising heart, and that's your lifestyle. I love God, I thank him, I worship him. You know, that's just that attitude. That in the night when you sleep, your spirit goes to the realms of God, the heavens of God. And whatever he wants to pour out, it's like an open door. It's an access for him to come down, or for you to access and get from him. Whatever you need for your spirit to flourish. And in Abraham's case and many other cases, he physically blesses you. But that's left to him what he wants to do. But the bottom line is you give him access. In your sleep, when you're sleeping, your body is asleep, but your spirit is awake. It travels through to that portal. Even in the day, when you're walking, when you're cooking, when you're at work, that portal remains open. It doesn't close. When you have that constant attitude, so your spirit always has access to the presence of God, to God himself, to the wisdom that comes from his throne. But you know, in your dreams, and when God reveals things to you, sometimes it can be even a vision while you're awake. God does not explain his dreams to you. He gives you bits and pieces, like a puzzle. And it's the job of your spirit to seek the answers out, to glean from whatever you dreamt, what the answers are. And that process brings you and draws you closer to him. That process develops and builds your spirit. And that's why he always speaks in parables. And you'll read in the Bible when he was walking, he always spoke in parables. So I want to just zero in on what, just so that there's people who are really interested in the spirit world and they really want to know the deep things. And I'm going to give you a piece of that. I gave you a small teaching when I taught on water. In fact, I talked extensively on water. But water is the gateway between this world of ours and the heavens. So you have to travel through water to get to that realm. And I'm going to show you how this operates. First, we read in Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the earth. Let's read this very interesting line. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. So before anything was ever made, there was water. Now, between you and I, water was the primary compound. Before anything was made, before any element was made, water was present. Now, a long time ago, I showed you how the Big Bang happened according to God. Science tells us that if you take a round jar, for example, a bubble, you fill it up with water, and then you send a frequency, a sound frequency, a specific frequency through that jar. It's called light in a jar. That becomes a miniature star depending on the volume of water and the volume of sound. You'll get an appropriate light coming out of that water. It's like a miracle. Now, once again, nobody pieced this for me together. I derived how the Big Bang took place through knowledge of this information. And so, God had to speak a word through the water at a certain frequency for light to be formed. And that light, from the explosions that take place of that light, all other chemicals, oxygen, nitrogen, helium, gold, diamonds, all these things, even the scientists will tell you from the Big Bang, all the elements were created. And this is how God started creation. If you want, you can go back and listen to that video. But the main thing I'm trying to tell you is that water has been present, is present between the realms or the firmaments. Verse 6 of Genesis. Then God said, let there be a firmament, that's a heaven, in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Thus God made the firmament, that's the heavens, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. Now here we're looking at a singular heaven, but we're talking about the heavens. So between the physical realm and the heavenly realm, there is water. Now you can't see this with your eyes now. This is something you'll only be able to see once you reach that realm in your spirit. So water is the gateway to get through into the heavens. Now water has been and is central to how vibrations or frequencies are generated. Now last week I taught you about how emotions create a frequency, a vibration. Now a human being is made up of 70% water. And I showed you how different frequencies affect the spin of water, the Merkaba spin of water. We went through all of this, the God frequency, the God ratio, how it spins. And so when you generate a certain emotion, you don't realize it, but on a quantum level, the water that makes up your human body spins. And the division between your spirit and the heavens is that water. And depending on how that water frequency is spinning will determine whether you have access to the other side. Now if your spin is negative, in other words, if you have negative emotions, then your water becomes, if I could use this term, dirty. And dirty water will move you downwards into the underworld. Now, we learnt about how how frequencies change the structure, the molecular structure of water. We learnt this through Dr. Massaro. I taught you this video a long while ago. So water is pivotal to how you broadcast the frequency to open the portal so that you can access the heavens. Now you remember the story. Jesus crossed over to the land of the Gadarenes, and there he saw a possessed man who said that he had legions of demons on him. And what did the demon do? He said to Jesus, "Send us into the pigs." And pigs also made of water, and the water that pigs have is already dirty. Then they went into the pigs, and then they went down into the sea because it's all dirty, impure water. Because they were looking for an access point back into the underworld. Now that's why Jesus, who was hanging on a cross, who was pure, he took the sins of the world and he made himself impure, which caused his water to spin at a frequency, because sin makes your water spin at a frequency of the devil, if you can use that. And that opened the portal for him to go down into the depths of Hades, to speak to the prisoners and set them free. Now, without that emotion, without the godliness, you can't access the portal of God above. With bad emotion, you are able to access the portal leading downstairs. And so, water plays the vital role. It will always be. And because you are made with water, God gave you the key to reach the heavens. Do you know dogs don't have a soul, they don't have conscience, they don't have anger, they get frustrated because you irritate them, but there's no emotion like how we have. That's why, because they can't generate that, they can't access the heavens while the animal spirit is inside the animal. You and I have that privilege. We're the only ones. And so I want you to live with a thankful heart, so that God can warn you in advance what to stay away from, where to go, and He can uplift you in the time when the devil wants to break you down. The only way to be uplifted by God Himself is to keep that portal open. Just walk around with a thankful heart. And sometimes I know it's hard, but I want you to practice that. Come in the new year, we want to do a fast again, and we're going to put that in action. Do you know how important it is to keep your water clean, to access the heavens? Let's read Exodus. You shall also make a laver of bronze, with its base also of bronze, for washing. You shall put it between the tabernacle of meeting and the altar, and you shall put water in it. Why bronze? Because frequency, energies, cannot penetrate bronze or brass. So if something is in brass, that's the reason why you'll find these ancient religions, they use brassware to pray. It keeps the water pure. And when the water is pure in the brass laver, it's not contaminated by somebody's negative energy. So if you're going through the emotions of depression and sadness and hate and jealousy, and you come near the laver in the tent of meeting, that water will still be pure because it cannot penetrate brass. It cannot penetrate bronze. So that's the reason why specifically God said, keep that water pure, make it whole, be held in a bronze laver. And the reason for that is, without the pure water, you can't access the portal of God. So beloved, I want to pray with you to keep us all safe, protected in His wonderful arms. Whatever the devil wants to do, it's in vain. God is with us. Let us pray. Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the privilege of being your child. I am so thankful, Lord, that out of so many people, we are the ones you've chosen. You put in our hearts the desire for you. Thank you, Lord. We thank you sincerely that you are our God. And I pray, Lord, as the enemy seeks to devour so many people, that your hand of protection is going to be upon those that are listening, those that are wanting your protection, your love, your care. Those that are thankful that they are saved, you're going to embrace them right now. Plant your angels to surround them. Give them comfort. Open the portals as they worship you, Lord. Give them wisdom from above. I cover them all with your precious blood. In Jesus' name, everybody said, Amen. Beloved, have a beautiful week. I pray that you will join me next week. Don't forget, if you're watching this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. After subscribing, click on the notifications bell, because every Sunday morning you will get a fresh sermon, South African time, 8 a.m. More than that, you will have access to all the sermons, and every single one is designed to enrich your spirit. God bless you. See you next week.